Hello and good morning, everyone, and welcome to your daily sit rep for Friday, the 24th of October, 2025. I'm your host, Mike Shelby, and we have a lot to get through today. It wouldn't be Friday if we didn't. All right, good morning, Robert. Let's go ahead and jump inside the Beltway here.
Good morning, Mike. So Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy warned yesterday that flight delays due to air traffic controller shortages have grown to 50% since the beginning of the government shutdown. He also said that there are a lot of students at the FAA's ATC course in Oklahoma that are considering dropping out due to the shutdown. And he said this is likely to worsen some of those air traffic controller staff shortages. Also, Virginia Democrats are planning to introduce a state constitutional amendment that will allow them to create a new mid-decade map. But they will have to pass this amendment twice in the Virginia General Assembly over the next 2 months, and it will also have to go to a referendum vote in November before it can take effect. And then there are also multiple states now scrambling because of this SNAP shutdown. And yesterday, Glenn Youngkin, who's the Virginia governor, declared a state of emergency so they could cover SNAP ahead of federal funds running out. Hawaii has also authorized $100 million so that they can cover SNAP benefits for 2 months. And there are, I think, 30 plus other states that have now warned residents that SNAP funding is going to be cut off if the government shutdown continues past the 28th of October. I also saw Oklahoma's government sent a letter to Dollar General warning that this is not just going to impact SNAP recipients, but also some of these businesses that tend to cater, like these discount food retailers that tend to cater to SNAP recipients. I did look into past incidences of SNAP disruptions, and I didn't find any kind of large scale riots due to SNAP outages that have happened in the past. But I think it's also important to point out that those were very short term, like from hours to a day or two, and they were fixed pretty quickly. So we haven't seen like a major shutdown of SNAP on this scale before.
Mm-hmm. On the topic of this government shutdown, we have heard some, I would say, optimistic expectations that the government would get back up and running from Kevin Hassett, for instance, who's the head of the President's Economic Council. Have you seen any other senior White House officials or any Republicans or Democrats signaling that they're anywhere close to reach an agreement?
Well, there were a lot of Republicans in Congress saying the same thing that Hassett was, that after the No Kings, Democrats would fold. They're still doing votes on that continuing resolution, and Democrats are still blocking it. They're also blocking these individual full spending bills. There have been, I think, 3 Democratic senators that have crossed the aisle to vote on those individual spending bills, but that's it. There's no sign of anybody caving.
Mm-hmm. So, and this is maybe another case where could the Senate hold a vote to pass SNAP funding without actually restarting the government?
Yes, they could. There have been proposals for, I think, going into next week. They want to pass an individual bill to pay the military, one to pay federal employees, including air traffic controllers, and then there's also talk of a specific SNAP funding bill.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thanks for the update. Hey, and then let's go ahead and get to this as well. I saw Pam Bondi yesterday come out, and she threatened to arrest some of these California Democrats who are they're apparently encouraging the state of California to go arrest some of these ICE agents.
Yeah, and this is coming from former Speaker Nancy Pelosi and also another California Democrat, Kevin Mullen. They released a statement saying that California authorities are going to arrest and prosecute federal agents who break California laws. Specifically, Pelosi said, while the president may enjoy absolute immunity, courtesy of, quote, his rogue Supreme Court, those who operate under his orders do not. There was a response from Bondi to that, saying that she would prosecute California authorities if they impeded federal law enforcement. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche also officially sent a letter saying that the Trump administration is going to investigate and prosecute any officials who violate federal law by impeding immigration operations. And I think they're serious about that. Pam Bondi specifically said that she is definitely going to go after not only California Democrats, but she also mentioned J.B. Pritzker and a couple of other Illinois Democrats if they do this.
Mm-hmm. What is the legality there? Who actually has, I know there's the federal supremacy clause. I guess under what conditions could ICE agents violate a California law and then potentially be arrested? It doesn't make sense that an ICE agent would turn himself in or allow himself to be arrested, or what are we talking about here?
Well, historically, it has been when state or local officials have arrested federal law enforcement agents, it's been over accusations of like excessive force. And I think that would be the angle they would try to go with here, ostensibly at least. But I think the idea is to deter this immigration enforcement by threatening to arrest them. On immigration specifically, though, the state's case is a lot weaker. The federal immigration laws, both statutorily and in case law, are pretty strong. And I think they have a pretty dubious case if they try to do this. And in the past, when there have been some of these prosecutions where state officials have arrested federal officials, the federal officials have successfully had it removed to federal courts, where they've pretty commonly are then dismissed. But I think in this case, if they do try to go that route, then the Trump administration is going to respond with criminal charges.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Interesting 10th Amendment issue there. Thanks for that, Robert. Let's go ahead and move on over to the domestic sit rep, starting with Japan's major war drills.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, you said domestic. I thought there was a part I missed.
No, you know what? Excuse me. Global sit rep.
All right. Anyways, Japan's running 2 concurrent major war drills. The first is their, bear with me here, annual exercises, they call it, is what it is. They shorten it to Annual X. That has the USMC, the U.S. Navy, along with
the Marine Corps.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The Australians, French, Canadians, the New Zealanders, they're all participating. It is a major maritime exercise. And notably, there is no carrier strike group from the United States Navy in this. It is being led by a Japanese carrier, destroyer helicopter.
Jared, what's the bottom line here? They're practicing war against China.
Yes. At the same time, they are running a total drill with almost 60,000 people inside their lands. This is preparing to lead a coalition force against China without a carrier capital ship. Then moving over, China and India reportedly have China has reportedly stopped buying oil from Russia's Rosneft and Lukoil. Those are the ones that were sanctioned yesterday, and India is considering making a significant cut to it. The U.S. Air Force, flew a B-1 bomber down over the Caribbean in a relatively narrow air lane, kind of passing between Venezuelan airspace and Grenadian airspace there. And this is the second time that we've seen this in 2 weeks. We saw one just last week with B-52s. And also the U.S. is going to be sending troops to Trinidad. First, there's going to be a ship docking in the port of Spain, which you can see there is actually very close to Venezuela, and the Marine Expeditionary Unit that's attached to it, to the Amphibious Readiness Group down there, will be deploying to Trinidad per Trinidad to train on core infantry tactics, maintenance procedures, and advanced medical capabilities. So really training up the Trinidadian military there.
Mm-hmm. And then this is a show of force to Venezuela, essentially.
I don't think it's so much a show of force.
At least the B-1 bomber flight. That's
the B-1 certainly is. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for that, Jared. And moving on, we do have 484 protests this weekend. Listen, as always, number one, this is well within the baseline. This is about average for weekend protest. However, I do encourage you, check our map. If you're an early warning subscriber, head over to our Intel platform, check the map. You can zoom in on our map. It's interactive. You can see the details of where all these things are going to be. Go and think about attending one of these protests. Just get some eyes on, get some atmospherics, figure out what the heck is going on. We did that for No Kings, many of us, and it was just very beneficial to me to see. It helped me map out my local political landscape in my county, my city and county. It was very beneficial for me. And I know a lot about my county, and I learned a lot of things about left-wing groups that I did not previously know. Mostly because that is largely beneath the threshold of what's observable. So go there. If they're passing out pamphlets or any kind of literature, take it, take some photographs, just check it out. It would behoove you to do that, because as these protests continue on, Indivisible they've kind of been hinting here at the past month or two, really the past, I'd probably say like 4 to 6 weeks, that there's more coming. And it's not just protest. And now they're talking about escalation. And that's one of the things we will talk about over on the high side. Speaking of the high side, I'm going to tell you about what's next for Indivisible Escalation. They are the country's largest protest organizing group, and they're getting a little more specific with what this escalation is going to look like. We're going to get into that. And then also, Robert has our Homeland Operations sit rep, where we cover the federal law enforcement surges into these cities and what the federal response is to these left-wing disruption and, in many cases, lawlessness. And then we'll also cover some items from our far left sit rep and give you a picture, give you some insight into exactly what's happening with the revolutionary left. That is our subscriber-only briefing. If you head over to forwardobserver.com/trial and sign up, there's still time to catch the rest of this briefing live. When are you going to talk about World War III? Well, I think we got to worry about Civil War II, frankly, before we get around to World War III. I was talking to some guys last night. They're in the defense industry, and I was asking them about the Davidson window. That's like 2027, and Jared has talked about that a lot, about this may be, and it's funny because one of the guys that used to work at the Pentagon said, look, 2027 is when they think that's pretty much the end of China's window to try to take Taiwan, because they have demographic challenges. At any rate, they're pretty doubtful that we will actually get into World War III with China. And that's two people's perspectives. However, I will pass that along. I'm way more concerned about Civil War II than I am about World War III, quite frankly. All right. With that, we'll go ahead and jump over to the high side. So, Jared, if you would please take us out. And early warning, members, please stand by.